right, squad. Excuse me, just had an apple. Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. Extremely good book. We are going to read to page 70 today. So I hope you're ready. Here we go. Page number 1. Don't nobody believe nothing these days, which is why I haven't told nobody the story I'm about to tell you. And truth is, you probably ain't gonna believe it either. You're gonna think I'm lying or I'm losing it, but I'm telling you, this story is true. It happened to me. Really, it did. It so did. My name is William Holloman. But to my friends and people who know me, just Will. So call me Will because after I tell you what I'm about to tell you, you'll either want to be my friend or not want to be my friend at all. Either way, you'll know me. I'm only William to my mother, my brother Sean, whenever he was trying to be funny. Now I'm wishing I would have laughed more at his dumb jokes because the day before yesterday, Sean was shot and killed. I don't know you. Don't know your last name, if you got brothers or sisters or mothers or fathers or cousins that be like brothers and sisters or aunties and uncles that be like mothers and fathers. But if the blood inside you is on the inside of someone else, you never want to see it on the outside of them. The sadness is just so hard to explain. Imagine waking up and someone, a stranger, got you strapped down, got pliers shoved into your mouth, gripping a tooth somewhere in the back, one of the big important ones, and rips it out. Imagine the knocking in your head, the pressure pushing through your ears, the blood pooling. But the worst part, the absolute worst part, is the constant slipping of your tongue into the new empty space where you know a tooth supposed to be, but ain't no more. It's so hard to say. Sean's dead. Sean's dead. Sean's dead. So strange to say. So sad. But I guess not surprising, which I guess is even stranger and even sadder. The day before yesterday, me and my friend Tony were outside talking about whether or not we'd get any taller now that we were 15. When Sean was 15, he grew a foot, maybe a foot and a half. That's when he gave me all the clothes he couldn't fit. Tony kept saying he hoped he grew because even though he was the best ball player around here our age, he was also the shortest. And everybody knows you can't go all the way when you're that small unless you can really jump, like fly. And then there were shots. Everybody ran, ducked, hid, tucked themselves tight, did what we've all been trained to do. Pressed our lips to the pavement and prayed the boom followed by the buzz of a bullet ain't meet us. After the shots, me and Tony waited like we always do for the rumble to stop before picking our heads up and poking our heads out to count the bodies. This time, there was only one. Sean. I've never been in an earthquake, don't know if this was even close to how they are, but the ground definitely felt like it opened up and ate me. Things that always happen whenever someone is killed around here. Number 1, screaming. Not everybody screams. Usually just moms, girlfriends, daughters. In this case, it was Letitia, Sean's girlfriend, on her knees kissing his forehead between shrieks. I think she hoped her voice would somehow keep him alive, would clot the blood, but I think she knew deep down in the deepest part of her downness she was kissing him goodbye. And my mom moaning low, not my baby, not my baby. Why? Hanging over my brother's body like a dimmed light post. Number 2, sirens. Lots and lots of sirens. Howling, cutting through the sounds of the city, except the screams. The screams are always heard over everything, even the sirens. Number 3, questions. Cops flashed lights in our faces and we all turned to stone. Did anybody see anything? A young officer asked. He looked honest, like he ain't never done this before. You can always tell a newbie. They always ask questions like they really expect answers. Did anyone see anyone? I ain't seen nothing. Marcus Andrews, the neighborhood know-it-all, said. Even he knew better than to know anything. In case you ain't know, gunshots make everybody deaf and blind, especially when they make somebody dead. Best to become invisible in times like these. Everybody knows that. Even Tony flew away. I'm not sure if the cops asked me questions. Maybe, maybe not. Couldn't hear nothing. Ears filled up with heartbeats like my head was being held underwater, like I was holding my breath. Maybe I was. Maybe I was hoping I could give some back to Sean. Or maybe, somehow, join him. When bad things happen, we can usually look up and see the moon, big and bright, shining over us. That always made me feel better. Like there's something up there beaming down on us in the dark. But the day before yesterday, when Sean died, the moon was off. Somebody told me once a month the moon blacks out and becomes new, and the next night be back to normal. I'll tell you one thing, the moon is lucky it's not down here, where nothing is ever new. I stood there, mouth clenched, tight enough to grind my teeth down to dust, and looked at Sean lying there like a piece of furniture left outside, like a stained-up couch draped in a gold chain. Them fuckers ain't even snatch it. Random thought. Blood soaking into a t-shirt, blue jeans, and boots looks a lot like chocolate syrup when the glow from the streetlights hits it. But I know ain't nothing sweet about blood. I know it ain't like chocolate syrup at all. In his hand, a corner store plastic bag white with red letters. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a nice day. In that bag, special soap for my mother's eczema. I've seen her scratch it until it bleeds, pick at the pus bubbles and flaky scales, curse the invisible thing trying to eat her. Maybe there's something invisible trying to eat all of us as if we are beef. Beef gets passed down like name brand t-shirts around here, always too big, never ironed out. Gets inherited like a trunk of fool's gold or a treasure map leading to nowhere. Came knocking on my brother's life, kicked the damn door down, and took everything except his gold chain. Then the yellow tape that says do not cross gets put up and there's nothing left to do but go home. That tape lets people know that this is a murder scene, as if we ain't already know that. The crowd backs its way into buildings and down blocks until nothing is left but the tape. Sean was zipped into a bag and rolled away, his blood added to the pavement galaxy of bubblegum stars. The tape framed it like it was art, and the next day kids would play mummy with it. Back on the 8th floor, I locked myself in my room and put a pillow over my head to muffle the sound of my mom's mourning. She sat in the kitchen, sobbing into her palms, which she peeled away only to lift glass to mouth. With each sip came a brief silence, and with each brief silence, I snuck in a breath. I felt like crying, which felt like another person trapped behind my face. Tiny fists punching the backs of my eyes, feet kicking my throat at the spot where the swallow starts. Stay put, I whispered to him. Stay strong, I whispered to me. Because crying is against the rules. The rules. Number 1, crying. Don't. No matter what, don't. Number 2, snitching. Don't. No matter what, don't. Number 3, revenge. If someone you love gets killed, find the person who killed them and kill them. The invention of the rules ain't come from my brother, his friends, my dad, my uncle, the guys outside, the hustlers and shooters, and definitely not from me. Another thing about the rules, they weren't meant to be broken. They were meant for the broken to follow. Our bedroom, a square yellowy paint. 2 beds, one to the left of the door, one to the right. 2 dressers, one in front of the bed to the left of the door, one in front of the bed to the right. In the middle, a small TV. Sean's side was the left. Perfect, almost. Mine the right. Pigsty, mostly. Sean's wall had a poster of Tupac, a poster of Biggie. My wall had an anagram I wrote in messed up scribble with a pencil in case Mom made me erase it. Scare equals cares. Anagram is when you take a word and rearrange the letters to make another word, and sometimes the words are still somehow connected. Example, canoe equals ocean. Same letters, different words somehow still make sense together, like brothers. The middle drawer was the only thing ever out of place on Sean's side of the room, like a random jagged tooth in a perfect mouth, jammed tight between the top drawer of shirts, folded into neat rectangles, stacked like project floors, and on the bottom drawer of socks and underwear. Off track, stuck, forced in at an angle. Seemed like the middle drawer was jacked up on purpose to keep me and Mom out and Sean's gun in. I won't pretend that Sean was the kind of guy who was home by curfew, the kind of guy who called and checked in about where he was, who he was with, what he was doing. He wasn't. Not after 18, which was when our mother took her hands off him, pressed them together, and began to pray that he wouldn't go to jail, that he wouldn't get Letitia pregnant, that he wouldn't die. My mother used to say, I know you're young, gotta get it out, but just remember when you're walking in the nighttime, make sure the nighttime ain't walking into you. But Sean probably had his headphones on, Tupac or Biggie. So usually I ended up going to bed at night, curled up on my side of the room, eventually falling asleep staring at the half-empty bottles of cologne on top of Sean's dresser and the jacked-up middle drawer, alone. But I never touched nothing because it's no fun hiding from headlocks half the night, which is why I never touched nothing of his no more. It used to be different. When I was 12 and he was 16, we would talk trash till one of us passed out. He would tell me about girls, and I would tell him about pretend girls who he pretended were real too, just to make me feel good. He would tell me stories about how the best rappers ever were Biggie and Tupac, but I always wondered if that was just because they were dead. People always love people more when they're dead. And when I was 13, Sean welcomed me into teenage life. with a spritz of his almost grown cologne. Said my girlfriend, my first girlfriend, would like it. But she hated it, so I broke up with her because to me, her nose was funny acting. Sean thought that was stupid and funny, but worthy of joking and calling me William, worthy of a headlock that felt like a hug. Now the cologne will never drop lower in the bottles, and I'll never go to sleep again, believing that touching them or anything of his will lead to an arm around my neck. But it feels like an arm around my neck, wrenching, just thinking about how I'll never go to sleep again, believing him or believing he will eventually come home because he won't, and now I guess I should love him more, like he's my favorite, which is hard to do because he was my only brother and already my favorite. Suddenly our room seems lopsided, cut in half empty, half cold, half curious about that one drawer in the middle of it all. The middle drawer called to me, its awkward off-centeredness a sign that what was in it could and should be used to set things straight. I yanked and pulled and snatched and tugged at the drawer until it opened just more than an inch, just wide enough for my 15-year-old fingers to slither in and touch cold steel. Nickname: a cannon, a strap, a piece, a biscuit, a burner, a heater, a chopper, a gat, a hammer, a tool, for rule number 3. Which brings me to Carlson Riggs. He was known around here for being as loud as police sirens, but as soft as his first name. People said Riggs talked so much trash because he was short, but I think it was because his mom made him take gymnastics when he was a kid. And when you wear tights and know how to do cartwheels, it might be a good idea to also know how to defend yourself, or at least talk like you can. Riggs and Sean were so-called friends, but the best thing he ever did for Sean was teach him how to do a penny drop. The worst thing he ever did for Sean was shoot him. A penny drop is when you hang upside down on a monkey bar and swing back and forth, harder and harder, until just the right moment when you release your legs and go flying through the air, hopefully landing on your feet. It's all about timing. If you let your legs go too early, you'll land on your face. If you let your legs go too late, you'll land flat on your back. So you have to time it perfectly to get it right. Sean taught me how to time it perfectly. If you could do a penny drop or a backflip, no cartwheels. You were the king. Sean could do both, so he was the king around here to me and Tony and all of our friends. But he made sure I was the prince, in case you ain't know. Reasons I thought knew Riggs killed Sean. Number 1, turf. Riggs moved to a different part of the hood where the dark suns hang and bang and be wild. He wanted to join so he wouldn't be looked at like all bark no more, and instead could have a backbone built for him by the bite of his block boys who wait for anyone to cross the line into their territory, which happens to be 9 blocks from our building, and in the same neighborhood as the corner store that sells the special soap that my mother sent Sean out to get for her the day before yesterday. Number 1.1, survival tactics, main plain. Get down with somebody or get beat down by somebody. Number 2, crime shows. I grew up watching crime shows with my mother. Always know who the killer was way before the cops. It's like a gift, anagrams, and solving murder cases. Number 3, had to be. I had never held a gun, never even touched one. Heavier than I expected, like holding a newborn, except I knew the cry would be much, 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 much louder. A noise from the hallway. My mother, stumbling to the bathroom, her sobs leading the way. I quickly slapped the switch on the wall, dropping the room into darkness, dropping myself into bed, pushing the pistol under my pillow like a lost tooth. Sleep ran from me for what seemed like forever, hid from me like I used to hide from Sean before finally peeking out from behind pain. I woke up in the morning and tried to remember if I dreamed about anything. I don't think I did, so I pretended that I dreamed about Sean. It made me feel better about going to sleep the night he was murdered. But I also felt guilty for waking up, for breathing in, for stretching, yawning, and reaching under the pillow. I wrapped my fingers around the grip, placing them over Sean's prints like little brother holding big brother's hand again, walking me to the store, teaching me how to do a penny drop. If you let go too early, you'll land on your face. If you let go too late, you'll land on your back. To land on your feet, you gotta time it just right. In the bathroom, in the mirror, my face sagged, like sadness just trying to pull the skin off. Zombie. I had slept in my clothes, the stench of death and sweat trapped in the cotton like fish grease. I looked and felt like shit. And so what? I stuck the cannon in the waistband of the back of the jeans, the handle sticking out like a steel tail. I covered it with my too big t-shirt, the name brand hand-me-down from Sean. The plan was to wait for Riggs in front of his building. Me and Sean were always over his house before Riggs joined the gang. And since then, Sean had been up that way a bunch of times to get Mom's special soap. I figured it would be safest if I went in the morning, If I timed it right, none of his crew would be out yet. No one would ever suspect me. I'd hit his buzzer, get him to come down and open the door, then I'd pull my shirt over my mouth and nose and do it. In the kitchen, the sun burst through the window, bathing my mother, who slept slumped at the table, her head resting in the nest of her red, swollen arms. She'd probably been scratching all night, maybe trying to scratch the guilt away. I wanted to wake her and tell her that it wasn't her fault, but I didn't. Instead, with the pistol heavy on my back, I stepped lightly over the creaky parts of the floor, trying not to wake her and lie about where I was going, and break her heart even more. The yellow light that lined the hallway buzzed like the lightning bugs me and Sean used to catch when we were kids. We scooped them into washed out mayo jars, 4 or 5 at a time. Sean would twist the lid tight, and the two of us would sit on a bench and watch them fly around, bumping into each other, trapped until one by one their lights went out. At the elevator, back already sore, uncomfortable, gun strapped like a brick, rubbing my skin raw with each step. Seemed like time stood still as I reached out and pressed the button. White light surrounded the black arrow. Down, 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 down. Long way down. So excited to see what happens next.